Beerus takes a Christmas cruise, but without a ticket, he's not going to make many friends. That and the trying to kill everybody thing. It's the Battle of Gods arc on Dragon Ball Dissection. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's the 25th already, which means it's the 4th installment of Dragon Ball Dissection December. Last time we began our look at the animated version of Dragon Ball Super, covering the first 4 episodes. That means my Christmas gift to you is Dragon Ball Super episode 5. I didn't get a gift receipt, so you're stuck with it. And if I come over to your house and see you don't still have it, it's really going to hurt my feelings. I guess it's about time I mention that characters like Goku can't sense Beerus because Beerus has God Ki, and God Ki can only be sensed by other gods. It's a setup Battle of Gods uses to confirm that Goku has indeed become a Super Saiyan God. That's really its main function. Given that nobody present knows what a Super Saiyan God is, there has to be some kind of verifiable metric to identify it. Otherwise, Goku could just be Super Saiyan 3.5 or something. And because of its origin as a device, its application often feels out of place in Dragon Ball. Obviously, there's the fact that Goku has met and trained with many gods over the years, so why is this only coming up now? If Goku is shocked he can't sense Beerus, surely he'd be shocked he could never sense Kaio, right? Or if prior gods don't have God Ki, why not? Other than the fact that they were thought up before this concept was. Conveniently, Piccolo's deduction of Kaioshin's identity being attributed to him having previously been a god mirrors Dende's reading of Beerus' God Ki enough that it's possible to retroactively read Piccolo's reaction as a reference to God Ki, even though here, Piccolo doesn't pick up on Beerus at all. I don't know if it's as common now, but I remember when this material was new, I saw some dub fans under the impression that Beerus literally was the introduction of gods to the Dragon Ball universe. After all, the dub had largely scrubbed references to gods from their version of the shows prior to this. Kami was treated as a name, with his title the much vaguer Guardian of Earth. From those fans' perspectives, it's only now the title is all about gods. Beerus is a god of destruction, their special God Ki that no one's ever talked about before. Honestly, I'd almost prefer they were right. It would certainly make the concept a bit more palatable, and it would also combat against the godly creep I complained about during original Dragon Ball. Yes, I know, I must wash my mouth out with soap after that one. But it's true, at least from a 21st century perspective. Goku meeting God for the first time would certainly lose its punch, but everything else afterwards wouldn't feel like such a redundant, retconned mess if these were all just a bunch of random martial arts kooks who live in the afterlife for some reason. Beerus and Whis arrive on Kaio's world near the end of episode 4. This road trip is accompanied by a cute joke. Before they leave in episode 3, Beerus asks how long the trip will take. Whis answers 26 minutes and 44 seconds, which Beerus equates to an episode of anime. Given that it takes roughly a full episode of the show for them to reach their destination, that more or less tracks. But you want more than that, right? This is Dragon Ball Dissection after all. I have you covered. I decided to time how long it took from the moment Beerus and Whis leave their planet until the moment they arrive in front of Kaio, including all elements of the show itself while excluding commercials, sponsor cards, and, the 2 full weeks in between episodes. I timed the trip taking 24 minutes and 37 seconds in real time. All things considered, that's pretty impressive. Of course, that's assuming they meant for us to exclude sponsor cards and commercials. Well, I can try to go a little further, but this is difficult because I didn't actually see Dragon Ball Super airing on Japanese television. But I tried a couple of comparisons given the limited resources I do have. Just don't take it too seriously. Dragon Ball Super has about 20 seconds of sponsor cards. I broke out one of my old Dragon Ball Z fan subs from 1993. I timed 3 minutes of interior commercials from DBZ episode 200, which gave me a total of 27 minutes and 57 seconds, which is a minute and 13 seconds over the estimate. I then tried another show from roughly the same time period as Super, which had only a minute and 15 seconds of interior commercials, and that got me to 26 minutes and 12 seconds, a mere 32 seconds away from the estimate. It's also the closest bid without going over, so this total is Beerus tested, Bob Barker approved. We're heading to the Showcase Showdown! Truly, this is the deep dive you fans of the dangly things on Goku's boots have been waiting for since 2016. Anyway, Goku and Beerus meet. Just like in the movie, I love how Kaio tries to keep Goku polite, and how Goku keeps adding desu to everything. They fight and, woof. Yes, episode 5 has gone down in Dragon Ball history as one of the worst looking episodes of all time. Score another point for the camp who wish the movies had been skipped. Look, it's true that I don't focus that much on the animation. I definitely appreciate the artistry, but to me, a good story can overcome bad animation. I know that they reanimated a lot of this for the Blu-ray release. Frankly, regardless of which version it is, this is a pretty boring episode anyway. I mean, Beerus is supposed to effortlessly take down Goku to demonstrate how awesome he is, so it probably shouldn't take up an entire episode. But all that said, Dragon Ball Super's rushed production did it no favors. This is bad. And this is the first big spectacle action scene of the series, unless you want to count Goten and Trunks fighting a snake. The show does not make a good first impression on the action front by providing viewers with this. It wasn't fair to the fans, and it wasn't fair to the animators. I'm 100% with you on this. Beerus shows up at the party, and this is another big change compared to the movie. Well, it's a big change compared to the manga, too, in that it actually shows Beerus at the party, rather than just skipping to the fight. That alone is an improvement. But it's a big change compared to the movie because of that balance of Beerus I keep mentioning. The series really wants to make Beerus more threatening, which I can respect because he needs to be considered a threat. I find it incredibly unsettling how Beerus taunts Vegeta with his introduction, threatens him with finger guns, paralyzes him, and tells him he's already dead. Just before Bluma stumbles in and he and Whis act all polite. I think it's important to maintain that contrast between Vegeta's constant fear and everyone else's complete ease. This version hammers in how correct Vegeta's fear is. My issue is that the show struggles to demonstrate the other side of Beerus. In the movie, Beerus immediately makes himself the life of the party. Everybody loves him. Here, everybody's friendly to him. I especially like the gag of Yamcha cozying up to Beerus and bragging that he's one of the longest standing members of this friend group and also one of the strongest. Poor dolt. They appreciate Beerus' boldness in trying Kuririn's Russian roulette-inspired wasabi takoyaki game. Oh, and hey, I guess Russia now exists in Dragon Ball? Maybe this is the Earth where dinosaurs are extinct. The problem is that this friendliness doesn't go both ways. Beerus doesn't really do anything to ingratiate himself to these people. He's standoffish and constantly on a hair trigger. What works in the movie version is that despite his reputation, Beerus seems perfectly capable of and willing to have fun. That's the tension, because you know something is going to have to set him off eventually, you just don't know what yet. And then it ends up being something as trivial as pudding. Here, everything threatens to set him off. He's annoyed that Yamcha slaps him on the back. He very nearly blows up the world when Trunks and Goten accidentally hit him with squirt guns. Yeah, I know, cats in water, whatever. It devalues when he eventually does lose his cool over that pudding, and it makes his attack feel like less of a betrayal. When Bluma confronts him over ruining her party here, it doesn't land for me as much because it barely came across like he was part of the group to begin with. Of course, the biggest sin of this version is cutting out Vegeta's bingo dance distraction. Here, it's replaced with Vegeta fishing an octopus out of the water and making more takoyaki. You know, because Kuririn served Beerus takoyaki. And Vegeta served him more takoyaki. And now he's continuing to make him more takoyaki. As funny as Vegeta the Chef truly is, it's starting to feel like this version only has one joke, and it's spreading a bit thin. Undermining this is a big moment, and its movie equivalent is a result of Beerus reacting to the hostage situation, which doesn't exist here, rather than getting wet. In other words, it's demonstrating that he can be dangerous for potentially good reasons, not just petty ones. So anyway, pudding stuff eventually happens. The fight breaks out, only it's not as good because there are no chopsticks involved. Finally, Bluma has had enough, confronts Beerus for wrecking her party, and slaps him across the face. He, in turn, slaps her back. That causes Vegeta to freak out and power up, stronger than he's been before. I'm not getting into the movie's power scaling claims as to whether he's stronger than Goku. I'd be fine with it if he was, who cares? At any rate, it's one of the most iconic moments of the film. The slap fight is iconic, Vegeta actually standing up for his wife is iconic, his Ore no Buruma is iconic. My issue with this interpretation is its awful pacing. In the movie, Bluma slaps Beerus, there's a pause. He slaps her back. Vegeta freaks. Aside from Vegeta, the actions are pretty understated. That's what makes it shocking. The whole thing takes 10 seconds. Would you believe me if I told you the Super version takes nearly 2 minutes? The show makes a meal out of everything. Dramatic music. Beerus rears back his hand. Vegeta's mouth hangs open. Quadruple freeze frame reactions to the hit. Bluma flies across the deck. Vegeta makes extremely goofy faces and vocalizations. It's ridiculous. This draws out the setup so long that it feels like it should be a misdirection. That Beerus is going to smile and say, "Hey, you stood up to me, I'm impressed." But no, it's just a whole lot of padding so we can milk this to the end of the episode. Way to ruin an iconic moment. The show again dips into the extended cut of the movie by giving Oolong more than half an episode to play rock, paper, scissors against Beerus for the fate of the world. In the movie, it's an odd, pace-breaking, but relatively quick gag. Right as Beerus is about to blow up Earth, he suddenly stops and decides to single out Oolong because he mistakes him as being the same race as Mr. Boo. He challenges Oolong to some RPS. Since Yamcha assumes Beerus will assume Oolong has cloven hooves and can only throw scissors, he suggests Oolong can beat Beerus' inevitable rock by throwing paper. But Beerus throws scissors because he overheard the entire conversation. Then life moves on. Here, the TV show pacing emphasizes it and expands it into a real segment, helping this version not feel so out of place or random. This time, rather than not throwing scissors, scissors is all Oolong throws. And so does Beerus. With the fate of the world at stake, they agonizingly tie twice. But Oolong pushes his luck doing the same move a third time, and Beerus doesn't. I like this a lot better than the extended cut of the movie. This is one of the few specific moments that stuck with me from when I first watched the series, and remember, I hadn't yet seen the extended cut of the movie. Imagine my delight when Oolong actually had a feature spot. It is painfully drawn out, but that kinda works in this moment. Unlike the slap, it's supposed to be absurd. The absurdity is the source of the tension. Even the characters get more stressed out the longer it goes on. However, as long as we're focusing on Oolong, let's talk about his voice actor, Tatsuta Naoki. Like Yamcha, he's been part of this cast for longer than nearly anybody. However, as I'm sure you know, after his dynamite introduction, his role in the franchise really dropped off. No respect for our perverted pig friend. Even Watanabe Naoko eventually picked up the slightly higher profile role of Chi-Chi once those Pu'er royalties started drying up. But Dragon Ball Super finally throws Tatsuta a bone. Starting with episode 12, he takes over as the narrator, assuring him plenty of consistent Dragon Ball work for the length of the series, and I think he's pretty good at it. His narrator voice is authoritative and even, very different from his high-pitched and animated oolong. As good a match as it is, though, it's hard to compare to the original Yanami Joji. Tatsuta's voice isn't as deep, and he doesn't quite have the same comforting grandfatherly quality. It's certainly good, though. The only element of this that's really disappointing is the nature of Yanami's departure. Yanami had been with Dragon Ball from the very beginning. He was the narrator, yes, but he also voiced several characters over the years. Dr. Brief, The King, Babidi, and of course, Kaio, who has a prominent role in this arc. Yanami had apparently already given up Dr. Brief by Resurrection F, although he stayed on as the narrator. And he continued in that role and as Kaio for Dragon Ball Super. At first. It's honestly really difficult to listen to Yanami's voice in Dragon Ball Super. He sounds so weak, particularly as Kaio. There are so many scenes where the character is drawn in a very animated, excited, or angry way, but the performance is unable to match it. Going into episode 12, it was announced that Yanami, who was 84 at the time, would be taking temporary medical leave from the show, although you can still hear a few of his Kaio vocalizations in that episode. Tatsuta took over as the narrator then and as Kaio in episode 14, the final episode in this story arc. Unfortunately, that temporary leave would prove to be permanent. Yanami would never return to his voice acting roles, and he passed away in 2021 at the age of 90. After this arc, Kaio largely stops appearing, despite opening the show with such a large role. This could be yet another example of the godly creep rendering Kaio completely irrelevant once Beerus and Whis enter the picture as Goku's and Vegeta's new martial arts teachers, but I'd prefer to think it's at least partly due to Yanami's departure. After Oolong fails to secure a win, although imagine what a cool ending it would be if he had, Goku shows up. And while this particular piece of music has been used before, this is how I always remember it, as Goku arriving. It's this chirpy little thing. Sumitomo's score definitely lacks that kung fu movie vibe that so characterized Kikuchi Shunsuke's scores for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I've never claimed to be a fan, but rewatching, the tracks are starting to grow on me. This one, though, I still don't know how I feel about it. Even after 10 years, I don't know if I like it or am annoyed by it. Maybe a little of both. I can never get it out of my head, though. Just like in the movie, Goku gathers the Dragon Balls to ask Shenlong about Super Saiyan God. Just like in the movie, Shenlong is afraid of Beerus, probably because they were roommates in college and Beerus is the one who made his eyes red. And just like in the movie, Shenlong only grants one wish. A few more details are added, though. Beerus and Whis recognize the Dragon Balls as wish orbs, although Beerus comments that he remembers them being bigger. This could be a reference to the Namekian balls, as they do recognize Dende as being Namekian. It could also be a reference to something else, setting up a future arc similarly, but not as directly as the manga version does. Shenlong also refers to the legend of Super Saiyan God as being recorded in Namekian books of mythology, something he doesn't say in the movie. The Super Saiyan God ritual takes a long time, a whole episode. It doesn't look as good as the movie, but I like that they add their own aesthetic touches. I like the golden sky and the weather phenomena, and these stunned peel-off faces. They might have no role in this story, but they are still occasionally charming. Despite drawing it out this long, this is the point where the anime briefly gets ahead of the manga. But given that the animated fight takes up the remaining 5 episodes of the arc as opposed to a single chapter in the manga, that's not a position it holds for very long. For now. As the fight rages, Whis ultimately invites Pilaf, Shu, and Mai to eat with him. It's a random bit of fluff, and it doesn't really persist or establish a relationship between these characters, and there's still the problem that I have no idea why Pilaf is in this story unless I engage my out-of-continuity movie brain. Still, it's cute. Cute enough to warrant seeing these characters leave the ship and then come all the way back? Probably not, but it's there. While the movie fight is much more a quick explosion of Goku's new potential, the TV version spends quite a bit of time showing Goku get used to having this power. It explores many different angles, and I'm surprised to say I never really got bored watching it. I really like the callback to their earlier fight where Goku gives Beerus a flick and a chop, just to get even with Beerus having done it to him. However, Goku just does that for the sake of his pride. It doesn't finish off Beerus like it had with Goku, so the battle rages on. So that's it for today. It's time for me to carve into the traditional Christmas tofurkey. Thank you for watching, and thank you for spending Christmas with me. However you celebrate the holidays and whatever holiday or holidays you celebrate, I hope you're happy, healthy, and loved. Don't forget though, there is still a bit of Dragon Ball Dissection December to go. Check back on New Year's Eve, the very end of December, which will also bring the Battle of Gods arc to a close. I think. Maybe? Or you can watch it right now as a $10 or higher patron. $5 and higher gets your name in these here credits, and $1 gets you access to my weird little Discord world. Happy holidays to everybody, and I will see you next time.